Welcome back to Rouse Rising, my little homestead on the internet. Today we are cooking from the pantry. We are participating in Jessica's 3 Rivers Challenge, and we're going to be cooking up a storm, learning how to make homemade corn flour tortillas. We're going to be using those to make some homemade enchiladas, as well as some pumpkin muffins, pumpkin cookies, butternut squash soup. All the delicious things are going down in today's video for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Go ahead and grab a hot cup of tea or your favorite drink. Click that subscribe button. We would love to have you a part of the Rouse Rising family. Well, y'all, I discovered something, and I didn't have my phone out here when I discovered it, and I consolidated it. But y'all remember those boxes that said ground beef on them? And it had, I said they were full of sausage that was way too insanely spicy. Well, guess what I did? Those boxes were full of regular sausage venison, and I had all the spicy sausage so that we would use it up first, and we ended up giving it away and using it up in all of 2022. And so I had kept the mild sausage in those boxes, but I forgot that I had mild sausage in those boxes, and I didn't even open them up and look. I just told you guys, oh, that's that too hot sausage I don't know what to do with. No, it wasn't. I'm on the brain. This is why you need to open up all your boxes and check them, because it was full of mild sausage. So now we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 18, 20, 22 pounds, I'd say, of venison sausage, because we get them in the 2-pound packs because we're a big family. So I just went ahead and said, make them 2 pounds. So that is a big time score. I thought we were completely out of that because, you know what happens when you assume? When you assume, things happen. So many of you all were so helpful. And you know what? We honestly have I've only found one spicy venison sausage in the whole house, and that was in my inside fridge. I also forgot that I was using it in a pumpkin. I'll link the video for you all, but I was using the spicy sausage in a pumpkin pasta dish, and that's how we used up a lot of it. We gave some of it away, and oh my goodness, you all. I'm just glad to be past that phase because it causes us such terrible inflammation. We're just happy to have regular sausage. It's just like salted venison, and some, like, a few mild seasonings. Nothing too inflammatory there. So happy to have some of that. Hamburger. All right, let's get going. All right, y'all. Here's the one package we have left of the sausage, and let me show you what the difference is. This one says, it's stamped in blue, and it says sausage H. It's the same as this. November 13th, 2021. Sausage hot, sausage venison. But this is the last one, so guess what? I don't have to get rid of any meat, and we have a ton of meat that's going to get us through the next couple months. One of the things that we have started doing this year was enjoying a morning drink together in the wintertime especially. We wake up and we prepare ourselves something warm to drink, and most mornings the kids choose hot chocolate. When they're under the weather or not feeling well, I will make them a medicinal tea. So this is a hot cocoa recipe that I've shared with you all on my channel, and I'll leave it linked down below in this video's description. It's included in an Azure Standard video because that's where I get my A2 whole powdered milk from, and it makes a delicious, creamy, hot cocoa mix, and then I just add a splash of milk to cool it down because I did use boiling or hot water. So I'm just cooling it off a little bit, and then I'm going to serve this up to the kids. And after we enjoy our drinks, we're going to be making some breakfast. It's nice to have a warm drink and to sit around the table together in low lighting and just talk about the day or talk about whatever is on our minds. And that just gives us a little bit of time before I have to jump right into breakfast. And on this morning, we are going to be making pumpkin muffins. Oh yes, oh yes. And I'm just going to give a warning here. Don't be like me. Make sure that you add all of your ingredients and check them off of your list, because I had all good tensions, and I have some coconut oil melting on the stove beside me, but you're not going to see that just yet. So we are going to add these wheat berries. I am using a soft white wheat berry for this recipe. Also, I am going to double this recipe. I'm going to double everything, but I failed to double the pumpkin puree, but that is okay because turns out my dough was still a little bit too wet, so I'm not sure how another cup of pumpkin puree would have gone in there. You can use all-purpose flour for this recipe. And normally I do, but I'm all out of all-purpose flour, so I'm going to be using this fresh milled wheat, which I'm still learning to work with. And I do know that I need to allow this wheat to soak in the liquid for a while before I cook it. So I'm just going to allow it to sit on the counter once I get all of my ingredients mixed up. But I've already put in the bowl my 3/4 cup light brown sugar. So I'm just going to go through this recipe for you guys, the single recipe, not the double recipe that I'm doing. So you want 15 ounces of pumpkin puree, half a cup of salted butter, but I'm going to use coconut oil for this recipe, 3/4 cups light brown sugar, 3/4 cups sugar, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon vanilla, 1 3/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon pumpkin spice, 2 teaspoons cinnamon powder, 2 teaspoons baking powder, a half a teaspoon or more fine sea salt. You can do 1 cup mix-ins like chocolate chips. I didn't do anything for this particular recipe, but I am just mixing up all of my wet ingredients and then I'm mixing up all of my dry ingredients. What I failed to do was remember the coconut oil that's on the stove warming in my cast iron skillet beside me. So I didn't get that mixed into my wet ingredients. I'm going to end up adding it after all of my ingredients are mixed, and I believe that I fudged this recipe a little bit, or maybe it's using the fresh milled wheat that fudged this recipe a little bit. I'm not really sure which one it was. Typically, these pumpkin muffins come out perfectly when I use store-bought all-purpose flour. So it could be either of those factors. So you'll see how these turn out at the end. And maybe you know exactly what I did wrong. I think I just overmixed them and added the oil too late. That's what I believe happened. But I'm going to let this sit on the counter after I get it mixed up just so that the flour can really absorb, the fresh milled flour can really absorb the moisture in this recipe. I used some of the lard that I rendered with you all a few weeks back to grease up this pan, and then we are going to bake these at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes, and I'm also going to do a tray of larger muffins, and those are going to bake for about 30 or so minutes. But this is how they turned out, y'all. They are completely cooked. They just, I don't know what happened here. They got little dents in the middle, and even the little muffins that you see stacked behind, those even have little dimples in them as well. And you know, maybe the oven was preheated. Everything was as it should be. So I don't know if it's the fresh milled. It looks like maybe I needed to let it absorb more. I'm not sure. Everything rose really well, but anyways, they were very tasty and we loved them, enjoyed them very much. I've probably said it to you maybe 10 or 15 times that I was still buying store-bought tortillas and that I just wasn't ready yet to dive into homemade tortillas. But you guys, they're so easy. I don't know why it's taken me this long. I don't know why I was so intimidated. So boom, we're going to do it today. We're going to mill. This is some fresh milled wheat, and this is soft white wheat berries that I'm using. So you could use like an all-purpose flour if you wanted to. So we've got our fresh milled wheat, and then we're going to use some corn masa. This is organic corn masa that I got from Azure Standard. You need corn masa because of the nixtamalization process. Has allowed the nutrients in the corn to be utilized as a food source, and it also helps in making the tortillas so that they can stick together properly and all of that good stuff. So this is the recipe that I am using. 1 cup masa harina, 1 cup all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons lard, half a teaspoon salt, but I actually went up to almost a full teaspoon salt. You want to go a half teaspoon, didn't seem like enough to me. And then 3/4 cup warm water. My water might have been a touch warmer than warm. It was pretty warm. And so it wasn't boiling hot though, but it was pretty warm. So we're just going to hand mix this, and it's really nice to mix by hand because it doesn't really stick to your hand that bad once you get the right consistency. And so we just give it a nice little hand mix. And once we get it mixed up and it's kind of forms a ball of dough, we want to cover this with a damp cloth and let it sit for about 30 minutes so that the corn and the fresh milled flour and everything can absorb the moisture in there. That's one thing about using fresh milled products and corn products is you do need to allow them to absorb because they are fresh milled. They're going to be a little bit chunkier than your average all-purpose flour and that sort of thing. So it does need some time to absorb the moisture in the recipe. So once I have this in a cohesive mass, I'm just kind of kneading it a few times. I'm not sure if this is necessary. I should probably watch another professional do it on YouTube. But I'm just kneading it a few times just to get a little bit of gluten formed. You don't want a lot of gluten formation in this, and this isn't a very high gluten wheat berry. But I just kind of want this to be a cohesive dough. So I'm just folding it over a few times and pressing it. I'm just going to shape it and into a disc. We're going to come back to it after it's rested. And we're going to take about a ball, like a ping pong ball sized amount. And we're going to roll it into our hand. It's less than a golf ball, but I would say it's about a ping pong ball size. And what I have here is a Ziploc bag. I have cut the sides of the Ziploc bag and I have removed the Ziploc zipper because it was impeding my rolling pin from rolling these out. Then what I'm doing is putting my ping pong ball sized amount of dough in between the sheet of Ziploc and folding it over. Then I am pressing it down on my countertop with a pie plate, and this forms an absolutely perfect, beautiful circle pressed between the Ziploc with my tortilla dough. Then we are going to further roll it out and flatten it a little bit more with my rolling pin that you see I'm using here. What I'm doing is, my trick is to remove the Ziploc bag film from one side and to flip it over in my hand and then remove it from the other side. But I kind of like loosen it on both sides in the film and then flip it out onto my hand, if that makes sense. Then I read after the fact, you want to do 40 seconds on each side. I believe I was overcooking them on the sides. So 40 seconds on each side, and then you bring them to a brown. And you just want to use a little bit of fat or a little bit of lard in your pan when you're cooking those. And then I put them between a damp towel on the countertop just to rest because I'm going to be using those in a chicken enchilada recipe. If you remember from my last video, I shredded up a bunch of chicken and I put it in the freezer in some Ziploc bags. And now we're going to use that pre-shredded chicken to make a simple enchilada meal. Now this is half homemade, half store-bought enchiladas. We are using up some frozen onions that I had already chopped up. This is why this makes it so easy. So when I food prep, and when I have an abundance of food, or I have extra ingredients that I need to freeze or preserve in a way that I can use them down the road because I can't use them immediately. I do this with peppers. I do this with onions. I'll go ahead and chop them up for recipes and put them in a Ziploc bag. And then that way I have a quick and easy, boom, I just throw it in the pan and saute it up. So we're going to throw in these tricolored peppers with these onions, and then we're going to toss on top that frozen shredded chicken. And I'm just going to let this cook on the stovetop for a little while. You definitely want to make sure that you are seasoning with your Redmond's real salt. I used a taco seasoning that I made with you all in my last video for the chicken. So it's already been seasoned with the taco seasoning. And then I'm going to use a can of chili sauce or enchilada sauce that you see right there beside my cheese. I'm also grating up cheese. This is a dinner for the kids, but I am going to taste it. So just forewarning you guys, yes, it has dairy in it, but I'm going to peel the cheese off, and I'm going to give these enchiladas a taste on this night because I really want to know what they taste like with these homemade tortillas. This is a big block of raw cheese that I get from Azure Standard. You all, they have the best bulk food, best deals on bulk food that I have found, at least where I can get in my local area, because we're kind of remote. We don't have big stores like a lot of you might have. We don't have those Costco's and things like that. So I use Azure Standard for all of my bulk grains and dry goods, from things from dry milk to whole wheat berries and everything in between. You can get your oats there, your cheeses there, all the good stuff. If you want it raw, if you want it organic, if you want it non-GMO, if you want it pesticide free, and you want to buy it in bulk to save your family money and feed them the best that you can, check out Azure Standard. I always link their website down in my video's description for you all. I absolutely love shopping there. They deliver to a drop location in my town once a month, and I buy so many of my groceries from there, and I share all my hauls with you all. So if you're curious and want to know more about that, check out my grocery hauls playlist, and that's where you'll find all of my Azure Standard hauls, and some of those will be in my Pantry playlist as well. So we're just taking these corn flour tortillas and we are folding them in half because they are a little bit more firm than I would like, but hey, a little bit of a learning curve. I'm going to get better at these, and they are still tasty and delicious. So I share with you all my flops, my fails, my successes, and all of the things on this channel to hopefully inspire you to keep trying, to keep making things from scratch at home, even if they don't taste like what you buy processed from the store, even if they don't look like your neighbor's tortillas. You know, just keep trying. And I always say that we all put a different kind of love into our cooking. So my cooking, my food is going to taste different than yours, and it's going to taste different than the lady down the street. So keep that in mind. I've never been able to duplicate another person's recipe and make it taste just like they did. Even when they say, oh, it's real simple, you just do XYZ, and I do XYZ and it never comes out like theirs. Well, I'm putting a different touch on that dish. I'm making it my own kind of way with my own, the way I stir is different than the way you stir. And that affects the flavor and the texture of our food. And, you know, so many variables go into how each individual cooks. That's what makes us unique and makes our food delicious and ours. And, you know, that's what makes cooking a part of us. When we cook for people, we're sharing a part of our souls with them. So this is going to go in the oven and bake for about 20 to 30 minutes at 350 degrees. I did put a foil on top about 10 minutes into it because I didn't want the cheese to brown too much. And then I took the foil off for about the last 5 minutes. This is what it looks like. This is what the kids had for dinner. I did have a taste of it, but I and Aaron had something completely different and much simpler. All right, I made the kids the enchiladas that you saw earlier, and then this is the rest of the strawberry jam that was in the strawberry jam container. So I'm gonna put some dairy-free. I gave some of the kids some of this. I got this last month. You guys saw it, and I'm just finishing up I think I got 4 of these, and we're just now finishing that up. So it has cream on top, and I mixed it all up in there, and then this one is mine. And the kids already had some strawberry, and then I'm gonna put this granola I made like I think 2 weeks ago. So we're finishing that up. That's about how long a batch of granola lasts us because we don't eat it every day. So I'm gonna put some of that on top. There we go.
The first charger.
The first charger.
And then the usual, Erin had ground meat. I had some ground meat. And that's why I'm having a yogurt parfait now, because I had some ground meat and I'm gonna eat the parfait. These are pumpkin oatmeal cookies that I made with you all a few months back, and I popped them into the freezer for easy baking nights. I'm just gonna rattle off the ingredients to you. Pumpkin oatmeal cookies, 1 cup all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon pumpkin pie spice, half a teaspoon cinnamon, half a teaspoon baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon salt, half a cup unsalted butter or coconut oil, half a cup brown sugar, 1/4 cup sugar, 1 egg yolk, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1/3 cup pumpkin puree, and 1.5 cups rolled oats. You bake these at 350 degrees for 9 to 12 minutes. I had enchiladas last night. I had 1 enchilada. I peeled the cheese off. I ate the corn tortilla, the homemade corn tortilla, and the enchilada sauce. But I just want to say, like, I woke up, I'm washing my face right now. I just splashed water on it to try to help. And I'm actually not super puffy because I didn't eat that much, and I hydrated and I saunted. But I have like these really puffy bags all around my eyes, and that's what happens when I eat. And like I'm just puffy, right? That's what happens when I eat inflammatory foods. I also was in a lot of pain yesterday, so my sciatic nerve, my back, all my inflammation came back. My shoulder's on fire. I don't feel good. I don't look good. See, you can see these like swollen. I can feel them. They are puffy. Oh, and it's just not healthy. Like, if I don't have to feel this way and I don't have to look this way, and there's a way I can stop it from happening, I'm gonna do that, because I don't like waking up and looking like this and feeling like this. So on to the next meal. Goodness, we ate those pumpkin muffins on this day for breakfast. So we had just a scattered brained lunch is what I call it. And now we're on to making dinner. So for this dinner, we are making butternut squash soup, and I'm gonna stray from my typical recipe. And this one, instead of using nutmeg and making it more of like a spiced soup, we're gonna make it more of a herbed soup. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, my family loved this variation of butternut squash soup. So if you've been around, my normal butternut squash soup is, you see back there in that fruit basket, I would take a butternut squash like that, cut it in half, bake it, so that it's nice and baked through and delicious and sugary and gooey and all the good things. Then I blend it with broth and nutmeg and coconut milk, salt, pepper, maybe a little bit of pepper, but that's how I would normally make my butternut squash soup. This time I have this bag of frozen butternut squash that you see. I got that from Azure last winter sometime, and it's time that I use it up before it just gets totally freezer burnt and bad. So we're gonna use that whole rest of that bag. That's about 2.5 pounds of butternut squash. I'm gonna forego baking it because I think it's just gonna turn to mush, and I don't want to deal with that mess. So we're just gonna dump that whole bag into this pot when we get there. So first thing I'm doing is sauteing up this whole onion, and once we have that chopped up fine and sauteed, we're going to add in the rest of our ingredients. Once all these ingredients cook, we're going to make this a delicious blended soup, and I'll share with you how I do that. So we've got these onions going, and you want to saute them till they're clear, and then add in the rest of your ingredients. At this point, it's just a dump it in the pot and go scenario. So we're going in with the 2.5 pounds butternut squash. It's cubed up. You can do larger cubes. You can do roasted butternut squash. You can use your squash any way you want to use it. You can use cans of squash, but you know, just as long as you have a couple cups of squash in there. Then I'm using this herbed blend from my garden. It has rosemary, thyme, marjoram. What else does it have in it? A few other yummy seasonings or herbs in there. And then I'm going in with Redmond's real salt, just seasoning that up. This is a salted jar of chicken broth. So I did add salt to it, and I did write that on the lid so that I know to account for that amount of salt in this recipe. And so I shake up my jar to get all of the good stuff that settles down in the bottom. That is all the nutrition from the bone broth. And we are going to add that in here as well. I'm going to hold off on adding the coconut milk at this time. I don't need to add it immediately. I'm going to add that after this cooks and when I go to blend it. Off camera, you see me close this up right now, but I end up opening it back up and I didn't get it on camera. I added some chopped garlic to this as well. We have been sick in this house. We're on the mend now. Everybody's healthy and better, but I just want to keep our immune system up. So I went and I found some garlic cloves or some heads of garlic in my drawer, and I chop those up and I add those. I make sure that my vent is closed, and then I put this on soup for 15 minutes, and this pressure cooked with the soup function for that amount of time. You can see here, it's still under a great amount of pressure. You can see the top of the lid. There's that little circle of silver on the black part on the back where the vent is. And so I'm demonstrating a little bit. I was actually able to open that. The vent, eventually that silver thing went down. I might have pushed it down with my finger right then because it was done venting. I released the vent, allowed all the steam and the pressure to release, and that is what allowed me to open the lid. If it was still locked and latched and under pressure, I would not have been able to open up the lid. So now I'm just adding all of the coconut cream from the top of this can. There is coconut water, coconut milk down in the bottom of the can, but at this time I didn't want to add it because I feel like my soup already has enough liquid. And what I wish I would have done earlier was added red lentils to this before it cooked, but I was trying to avoid adding lentils. Once I get this blended, I notice that it is still really thin, so I end up adding about 3/4 of a cup of lentils to this soup as well, just to thicken it up a little bit, to absorb some of that moisture, and then I blitzed it again with my immersion blender. This is a KitchenAid immersion blender. I got it years ago, and I love using it for blending soups directly in the pot, because it saves me having to transfer boiling hot soup to a Vitamix or to a blender and then blending it or bit by bit in a food processor. This immersion blender I have used to make mayonnaise. I have used to blend up jugs of hot chocolate or hot cocoa. I've used it for so many things, but the primary thing I use it for is A, mayonnaise, and B, blending up soups. My kids love pureed soups, and you can pack so much nutrition into a soup and blend it. If your family doesn't like chunky soups or soups with a whole lot of vegetables and different things in them, if you're making like a meat-free soup, I mean, of course you can blend up the meat as well. It's going to be a little bit chunkier, but you can blend up any of your soups. And there's a few that we prefer blended and that my kids enjoy blended, and they will just gobble it up when it's nice and smooth. You know, kids are funny about textures, and I wouldn't say that my kids are picky eaters. I don't want to say that at all, because they do eat quite a diverse diet. But there are some things that they just won't eat based on texture. So if I can eliminate the textural issue and make it a more palatable texture for them, like blending it, then that is the much preferred method. So I ended up adding the lentils to this and then blending it again after they cooked. So I let this cook for about another 15 minutes to get those nice and soft, and then we blended them up. And yeah, what a delicious meal this was. You can serve it with fresh baked bread. You can serve it with salad. We just simply had the soup, and then later on we had muffins and pumpkin cookies and all the yummy, delicious baked things that we have baked over the last few days. So we are going to enjoy this soup. It's nice and creamy. It has a little bit of texture from the lentils that I didn't blend them all the way in, but it turned out so good. So this is the leftover coconut milk, and that's all the soup we had left over. We'll enjoy that, or I will tomorrow for lunch. And then this morning we are going to be making some French toast. I baked this bread late last night, right at bedtime. I said, oh no, I'm out of bread. So I threw the bread into the bread maker, and then before I went to sleep, I took it out of the bread machine, but it was too hot to wrap in a bag, so I left it on the counter all night. And I meant to wake up, like, because my kids wake up multiple times in the night, so I haven't slept through the night in 10 years. My intention was to come out and wrap up the bread, but I didn't. And yes, I woke up 3 times last night with my babies and failed to wrap the bread, so it was pretty firm this morning. So I decided, what a quick and easy breakfast. I'll just slap together some French toast for the kiddos. And Bodhi is enjoying his French toast with a little cup of milk. Here's Annika. She's loving on it. And yeah, that was today. So here we are today. I'm going to get this video uploaded for you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye.